Mr. Secretary, we just recently met backstage, but I am State Senator Patrick McMath. Isn't this a beautiful crowd? Beautiful crowd. Welcome to Louisiana. Welcome back to Louisiana. Very healthy crowd, very MAHA crowd. I bet some people in here grow their own vegetables and know how to bake their own bread, probably, Mr. Secretary. We're here today to celebrate a new chapter in Louisiana's health priorities and hopefully convince Governor Landry to sign Senate Bill 14. A game time decision. So I'm going to remind the governor what we did with Senate Bill 14. Yeah, please take your seats. Senate Bill 14 is all about protecting our children and the ingredients and the foods that we serve them in schools. It's about transparency, both for restaurants and for food manufacturers to disclose the types of ingredients that they're serving us and the potential impact that those ingredients could have on our bodies. It's about education, educating our healthcare providers and our citizens of Louisiana as to the effects of how important it is as to what we're putting into our bodies and the effects that it could have on us and our health. So it requires continuing education pieces for healthcare providers. And perhaps most importantly, it gives Secretary Kennedy and President Trump the leverage to force the food companies to the table to change and alter the ingredients that are all making us sick. And it's already happening. It's already working. So please, round of applause for that. This is by far and away the most comprehensive MAHA bill in the country right now. I'm looking forward to capping this off and signing it. It's been an absolute joy to run this bill because it's personal to me, and there are a few reasons why I'm standing on this stage right now with Governor Landry and Secretary Kennedy. It's even hard to believe that's happening. And first and foremost, my wife Jane and our kids are up on stage. Thank you, Jane, and the kids for being my why. Thank you. Got to thank all the MAHA moms here today and across the state for providing such a strong grassroots advocacy that despite fierce opposition among big food, we received not one single no vote in this bill. Huge. Secretary Kennedy, your team, especially Brian Sikma and Callie Means, were amazing to work with. Thank you for the support and thank you for your leadership across this country. And finally, it was only a few days after I filed this bill, Senate Bill 14, that Governor Landry called me. He says, Patrick, I like what you're doing here. Let's go get it done. And we did. And I'm looking forward to putting that exclamation point on it. Governor, thank you for your support and your leadership. And ladies and gentlemen, Governor Jeff Landry.
Good morning. How are we doing? You know, I just remembered how much trouble I got into over this bill. And so I just want to make sure all of you kids, your parents are fine with you being here, right? Y'all know the story. We had a big group of kids that came over to watch the legislature in action. Actually, about the time that the MAHA bill was on the Senate floor, I believe, and I took them outside. Secretary Kennedy and they wanted to send a big message of thank you to you and the president. I got in so much trouble. So my wife said, don't ever do that again. So I you know, because she's here, I want to make sure y'all all good, right? Huh? Just having a little fun. You know, look, over the past 18 months, Louisiana has experienced transformational change. We have addressed public safety, educational reform, implemented historic tax cuts and tax reform, and those changes are lifting our families out of poverty. They are lifting our economy and giving our families an opportunity to join a new industrial South where the average means income of families is much greater than Louisiana's. And our progress is being reflected in our rankings. And we are winning like never before. However, all of these wins are irrelevant if we don't have a healthy population. There was a time when our population was much healthier, when children played outside, when recess was a time for physical activity instead of Snapchat and TikTok. Today, Louisiana faces high rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. We sadly know the statistics, but they aren't just numbers. They're stories of families that are burdened with preventable illnesses and children growing up with limited access to proper nutrition and exercise. And we can, and we must, and we will do better. Our culture here in Louisiana provides us with a unique opportunity and an advantage. Fresh seafood from our waters, produce from some of the richest soil in America, and culinary innovations that the world appreciates. All healthy ways to enjoy food, right? Right, Bobby? Didn't we have some great Cajun food? He told me, he said, look, if I'm coming to Louisiana, I got to have some Cajun food. That's not a problem. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, we do it Cajun in all three. And here's something else. As the debate continues in Washington over Medicaid changes, we must remember that a healthy, independent population reduces reliance on Medicaid, freeing us from government dependence. Today marks the beginning of a healthy transformation for Louisiana. The Make America Healthy Again movement celebrates our commitment to health and well-being of our state and our nation. This initiative promotes a cultural shift towards healthier living, better nutrition, a brighter future for our children and our families. The MAHA movement emphasizes small, impactful actions, such as where's that baby at? Bring him up here. Oh, listen, don't you worry. Bring him close. He's probably hungry. We got some good, healthy food. Don't you worry. Look, this initiative emphasizes choosing water over soda, walking more, and supporting local families by purchasing fresh produce. These steps create positive ripples throughout our communities, leading to a healthier and more vibrant Louisiana. We owe a gratitude to a number of people who are here today and represent a great movement. There was a Mama Bear movement, and doctors and medical providers who are here today representing just a few of those who stood up for us during the COVID pandemic. They pushed back against those restrictions that they knew would be harmful to our children. And I want to thank them. I think they deserve a round of applause. But after that was over, they didn't give up. They recognized that we had to go down a more healthier, sustainable path. And so today we celebrate a milestone of the MAHA movement by signing two critical pieces of legislation and an additional initiative. First, I will sign with the Secretary and Senator Patrick McMath his MAHA bill, which enhances nutritional standards in our schools, bans harmful artificial dyes and additives, and encourages our schools and our governments to purchase from locally produced farmers and growers. Second, I will sign a bill that I wish someone had signed before COVID, we're going to sign an ivermectin access bill. By Senator Facey. Ivermectin is a safe medication with strong public health backing, helping people worldwide for over 50 years. Today's legislation ensures that access to the human form of this medication through pharmacists, following the models that other states have implemented. And then lastly, I will sign a letter to the Trump administration requesting a waiver to improve our food stamp program. This waiver aims to prevent SNAP recipients from purchasing unhealthy foods while incentivizing the purchase of nutritional foods. Those types of foods that, again, are produced from local markets. The goal is to ensure that our tax dollars are used effectively to promote health while aiding the most vulnerable. But our work is far from complete. We must continue to challenge a system that has been prioritizing profit over health. The MAHA movement is about progress through better daily choices and inspiring others to do the same. Now, I would like to recognize and honor and bring to the podium Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.,
Thank you all. And thank you, Governor Landry. During the COVID pandemic, it felt very lonely for long periods of time because there was so much censorship then and so much suppression of information. There were doctors being censored. There were scientists being censored, including some of the greatest scientists in the world, like Martin Kulldorff from Harvard and Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford. And most of the political leaders in this country were unwilling to raise their voices about the censorship, the impingement on constitutional rights, and the attacks on public health. And there were 3 attorney generals who were really alone in doing that in this country, and one of them was Jeff Landry. And I got to know him during that period, and we got to work together. But and so we formed not only a bond at that point, but also a deep personal friendship. And I called him a few months ago and said, if you want to do some MAHA legislation down here, let me know, because I want to be there for the bill signing. And graciously, he invited me to down. We have a chronic disease epidemic in this country now, and it's unlike anything that humanity has ever faced. We are literally the sickest nation in the world. During COVID, we had the highest death rate of any country in the world. We had 16% of the COVID deaths, and we only have 4.2% of the world's population. And when CDC was asked about this, they said, well, it's not our fault. It's because Americans are so sick, which, by the way, is their fault. But they said we have the highest chronic disease burden. The average person, according to the CDC, the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So how did we get this distinction of being the sickest country in the world? And by the way, this before Governor Landry got in here, Louisiana is the 49th state in terms of poor health. And Governor Landry wants to change that. And I'm confident that this bill is going to do just that. When Governor Landry and I talked a long time about my uncle and father this morning. And, when my uncle was president, I was a 10-year-old boy. We had the healthiest children in the world. About 3% of our children had chronic disease. Today, 60% do. we had about, in addition, about a 3% obesity rate in our children. Today, it's over 50%. In Japan, where they don't allow processed food in their schools, the level of obesity is still 3%. China, 20 years ago, had zero diabetes. Today, 51% of their adult population is diabetic or pre-diabetic because they let 20,000 fast food joints sprout up in China and they began importing US processed food. And when I was a kid, the average pediatrician would see one case of diabetes during a 40 or 50-year career of juvenile diabetes. Today, 38% of teens are pre-diabetic or diabetic. So 1 out of every 3 people who walk through his office door is now diabetic or pre-diabetic. The cost of this, of mitochondrial disorders, which is diabetes, is part of it is $1 trillion a year. So it's bigger than our military budget. And we are, and this is unsustainable. The cost of chronic disease, when my uncle was president, was 0. We spent 0 treating chronic disease. Today, we spend $1.7 trillion. And that rate is rising 2% greater, faster than the US economy is growing. So this is existential for us in so many ways. When I was a kid, in fact, in 1970, the scientists conducted the biggest epidemiological study in history of any country in the world. They looked at every child, 900,000 children in the state of Wisconsin, and they were specifically looking for autism. And they knew what autism looked like. And they did follow-up checks. It was an extraordinary study. They found 3 children. So it was the rate of autism at that point was 0.7 per 10,000. Oh, less than 1 per 10,000. A month ago, we released the newest data, which show that 1 in every 31 American kids has autism. And it's actually probably a lot worse than that because we gather that data state by state, and some states have better collection systems. The best collection system is California, and they're showing 1 in 19 kids has autism, 1 in 12.5 boys. This is unsustainable. And the cost of autism alone by 2030, according to a recent peer-reviewed study, is going to be $1 trillion a year. And then, 75% of American kids can no longer qualify for military service. There's a national security crisis too. We have a fertility crisis that's caused by the same ideology. A teenage boy in America today has less of a sperm count than a 65-year-old man. He has half the sperm count, half the testosterone of a 65-year-old man. So what are we doing to our kids? Our children did not suddenly become gluttonous and indolent. We are mass poisoning them. And we're mass poisoning them mainly with processed foods. They're swimming around in a toxic soup today. Most of it, the worst offender, we know this, is coming from toxic foods. And when the good news is that you can cure most diabetes. People lose their diabetes diagnosis if they eat good food. And it not only affects our physical health, it also is affecting our mental health. I did a speech a little earlier this week at the Capitol to all the prison superintendents in the country. And so before I did that, I went and did a little research just on Google. And I immediately found 12 studies of prisons of what happens when you switch out the food that you get in prisons with whole foods, with good food. And the mental illness declines dramatically. There's a doctor up at Harvard called Poland Dr. Poland, who is curing curing schizophrenia with changes in diet. These studies of prisons showed that there was an 85% drop in assaults after they switched out the process for the juvenile detention facilities. There was a 75% drop in the use of restraints. There was a 38% drop in violence among all these prisons. There was in one juvenile detention facility, there was a 100% drop in suicide. So getting good food to our state institutions, to our public schools is absolutely critical. The poisoning is not just affecting their health. It's affecting everything. It's affecting the mental illness, the depression, the alienation, the suicide rate, and the mental illness rates. And Governor Landry often talks about bringing the American dream to Louisiana. A healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person only has one. And that's that they can live a day without pain, without this loss of energy, without having to take these expensive medications. And we can do that for our kids. And we have a moral obligation and a patriotic obligation to do that. And these steps today, this is the SNAP waiver that Governor Landry is now filing with my colleague, Brooke Rollins at USDA. It is the most sweeping. I've been signing SNAP waivers with governors all over the country. Yesterday, I was in Oklahoma with Governor Stitt signing one, and he's getting rid of candy and soda on SNAP waiver. And by the way, we're not in any state. If you want to drink a soda, you ought to be able to do that. Americans should have a choice about whether to poison themselves or not. Not trying to take that away from them. But the federal government taxpayers should not be paying for you to do that. And then paying for the outcomes after you make yourself sick. Paying for treating the diabetes, the heart disease. Oh, but 10% of food stamps are now going to soda. I'm so happy that Governor Landry, with his boldness and his leadership, has been the first governor to add junk food to that, measured by sugar content. That is going to have a dramatic impact on public health among the poorest populations in this state. And we need to be bold. I want to congratulate all the legislatures here on supporting this legislation. It is going to change Louisiana. 4 years from now, Louisiana is not going to be 49th anymore. And as Governor McMath, or Senator McMath said to you, this helps me do my job, because the food companies are coming in every day and saying, stop the states from doing this. We don't want to have a national product as a patchwork of different states with different rules. We need national laws, and we're going to do it on our own. So this week you saw Kraft, the largest food company, remove food dyes. We've had Cargill pledge to do that. We've had Tyson's Food already remove them. And we're seeing this, Steak and Shake and all these other companies, Starbucks, which had just a few of seed oils in some of its, in one of its products, an egg bite, is removing those. So we're seeing the companies come to the table. And one of the reasons they're doing that, they can justify it for their shareholders. They want to do it. They've never been able to justify it to their shareholders. And now they can, because they don't want what you're doing here in Louisiana. So I want to thank you all for your support of this bill, for your support of Governor Landry. And he and I share a vision for what this country should look like. It should be a country of healthy kids again. And we're going to make that happen together. Thank you all very, very much.
How about that, huh? Is that unbelievable? Mrs. Secretary, if you would come on my left, and Senator McMath, we're gonna sign these historic bills, and I want the people of Louisiana to know what a great friend is to Louisiana. He was one of the only people during COVID, when we were pushing back against those restrictions, that cared enough to come down to Louisiana and to testify before the House. His commitment to our children here in Louisiana and to America is unwavering. And I also think we should thank President Trump. For having the vision and the courage to be able to appoint people just like Secretary Kennedy to these offices that are absolutely going to make a difference as we make America great again and healthy again. All right, Mr. Secretary, we're going to sign it. Senator said that he'd let you have the first slide. I'll give him the second one. Is that what you said? Since he gave you a promotion, you should be able to, yeah. All right. Senator Facey's, come on, Senator Facey, come on up here with us as well. And this again is one of those bills that we all wish we'd have had a long time ago, right, Doc? Right. And look, I want to also thank the doctors that are here today that have worked helping us pass these types of proactive pieces of legislation where we recognize it's okay to make a mistake. We're just not going to make the same mistake twice. Right, Doc? All right. Thank you. Thank you. And then lastly, this is going to be our request to Secretary Rollins and the Trump administration. Again, asking the federal government to grant us a waiver in our food stamp program so that we can ensure that those who need nutrition the most, who are the most vulnerable, will have access to nutritional food. I can tell you, Secretary Kennedy, I remember as a member of Congress debating, I got a better one, debating the Farm Bill. And of course, they couple the food stamp program into the Farm Bill, which makes it real complicated. And I remember at the time, and I'll probably get this wrong, and the press will correct me, I know they will, but back in 2011 or 2012, I think we were spending like $350 million on soft drinks in the food stamp program. And what we're hoping to do is supplant that, is to move that amount and supplant good nutritional drinks and water and things that really hydrate our kids. So here we go. And then also we're going to ask Secretary Rollins to also allow those recipients to be able to purchase things like rotisserie chicken as well, things that are very healthy for them as well. Again, thank you so very much, kids. Thank y'all so much. How about a big thank you to Secretary Kennedy, huh? We got all kind of great healthy snacks for y'all in the back. We really do appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. God bless the state of Louisiana and America.